Welcome back to the Holiday Hop, everybody. We are going to be doing a handkerchief today. And I'm making my own hanky out of some muslin. And what I did was I cut a 13 by 13 inch square. And then I couldn't find my hot ruler, so I took a piece of cardstock, put a 1/4 inch line down it, folded over my fabric twice at that 1/4 inch mark, and I have ironed it, and I have ironed it and put some clips on here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew right along this edge all the way around, just in case you want to make one of these and you don't happen to have a handkerchief laying around, because I know they're not very common. So let me sew this real fast and I'll be right back with you. Okay, so here is our hanky all sewn. And what I did, I sewed from the back, and I used a dark thread on the back just so you can see where it's sewn at. And I followed along the edge of the handkerchief instead of the seam line, because I wanted it to look as nice and smooth as possible. I'm just going to take and give my little handkerchief a quick iron, so that makes all those seams lay better and look better. And what we're going to do next is we're going to decide on an embroidery pattern for this, and then we're going to embroider it on the sewing machine. So I will bring you back as soon as I have that all figured out. Okay, so the next step in making our vintage handkerchief is that I have taken 2 pieces of tearaway stabilizer, and I'm writing on the stabilizer, not on my handkerchief. I've run a straight line down through there. Then I'm going to find the halfway mark between 4 and 10. So 1, 2, 3. There's where I want the middle of my pattern to be. Before we go any further, I'm going to put the other piece underneath here, because I'm going to pin the stabilizer into place. I have an embroidery machine, but most of my viewers don't. So I thought you might enjoy seeing a pattern that you can create on your sewing machine. And I've looked at a whole bunch of patterns, and this is what I've decided that I'm going to do. The stabilizer keeps the fabric that's underneath from bunching up when you sew. So now that we've got our stabilizer on here, I'm going to take, here's my little pattern, and I'm going to draw my, what you call that, an oval, an egg. I got one side way better than the other. That's okay, because I'm drawing on paper. I can get away with it. And I'm going to do an M on here. And I'm going to go over to my sewing machine. And I'm going to sew around with a satin stitch. And then I'm going to do the same here. And it's basically freehand. You can draw anything you want. When I was looking up vintage handkerchiefs on eBay and various other places, I saw all kinds of different designs. There are flowers, there are monograms, there's anything you could possibly want out there. And one thing I noticed about all of the vintage looking ones is that it seems that they weren't perfect. So I'm not going to worry about perfect either. I'm just going to put a design that I really like on here, and then I'm going to keep it so it can go any way I want. You may be better at the satin stitch part of this than I am. I hope you are, because we're going to have fun today. All right, let's go over to the sewing machine and let's do the next part of this. And if you have an embroidery machine, by all means, feel free to use your embroidery machine to make this. Found one I liked yesterday, and on the Baby Lock Jazz 2, this is a 12. And I'm putting things down fairly narrow. I'm not going to start on the very bottom, but I'm lining up my line so that it is right in between my, at the very center of my presser foot. Let's see if I can get you even closer. Let's start. And all I am doing is guiding so that it stays near my pattern. And I'm letting the machine do all the rest of the work. So I'm not pushing it in there. And I'm going slow. So let's stop real quick. Go ahead and trim that thread and then keep going. Okay. That is a variegated thread. So that's why it looks brown over here and gold on this side. We're going to cut the bobbin thread. I'm going to flip it over real quick and get the long bobbin thread from before so that it's out of my way. And then I'm going to go back down to a 2, which is a zigzag stitch on my machine. And I'm going to do my width of the stitch at about a 2 and the length of it just barely at 1. And then we're going to see how well I can do at making that in. So here you go. Once again, I'm lining up the stitch so the center of my letter is right there at the center. And we're going to start. And you're going to get to see it, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And this is kind of an experiment for me. I'm thinking that I may want to make some handkerchiefs as a gift for a wedding. I'm making quilts for the people too, but I think they might like to have something a little more, I don't know, personalized. Quilts are pretty personal, but they're doing the whole traditional vintagey kind of thing. So this is my attempt at vintagey and traditional. And if I really like it, then maybe they'll like it as well. They always say do a practice piece. That's what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm going to trim out my little threads here. Take off my needles. Got to figure out where I put my needle bowl. And then because there is no back on this, I want to make sure that I've got all the threads. Now, if you wanted to, you could wet this stabilizer that I used. It's paper, and it might come off a little bit easier. I'm putting my fingers on the stitches because I don't want the stabilizer to rip my stitches. I want to get as close in there as I can. I've got a pen here I'm going to use to start ripping the stabilizer on the back. Don't stick yourself with the pen like I just did. Again, I'm putting my fingers over top of the stitching so that when I lift the stabilizer up, it doesn't rip up my thread. And if you want to, you can come in here with your little embroidery scissors and finish getting the stabilizer out of the inside of the design. I will be washing this and ironing it before I give it. Well, the gift ones. This one's mine. It's not going anywhere. But I'm being very careful when I cut the stabilizer that I don't cut my threads at all. And they do make, and I own a pair of duckbill scissors that are made for doing things like this. I should have grabbed them out before I started sewing. There's the back, mostly done. There's still some paper you can see right there along my M. And then let's go over here to the front. You could also use water-soluble stabilizer for this. And that water-soluble stabilizer, you could just rinse out. You wouldn't have to lift it at all. Now, hankies used to be a very common gift. It was just unpersonal enough that you could give it to people that you didn't know well. And if you embroidered them, young women would often do it for gentlemen they were dating or courting because Kleenex weren't real common way back then. And they were often monogrammed, or ladies would embroider their own hankies. You could put days of the week on them, just like the underwear when back in the 70s. That was the weirdest thing. I always felt bad if I wore the wrong day of the week. You could do similar things with hankies back then. I guess you still could now if you wanted to. A lot of red work was done on hankies. Red work is using red thread to sew. There is no good angle for me right here. But I'm showing all of the cutting so that you can see this is fairly easy. It's not hard to do, it takes a little time. And like I said, if you used wash away stabilizer, you just dunk this all in water and the stabilizer would all come out. I've still got a little bit of touch to that. So let me get that cleaned up off camera. Then I'll bring you back and show you what it looks like. Okay, and here is my finished handkerchief. And I'm really glad that this is mine because I learned something. On the stabilizer, whenever I drew on it, Don't do that with ink. Either use pencil or use an erasable pen, because whenever I went to starch and iron my handkerchief, the ink that was still in the stabilizer under the stitching ran. I've removed a good bit of it with some alcohol, and I'm going to run this through the washer with some more alcohol and get that stain out, but use something different to write that. I'm going to run this through the washing machine with some alcohol to get that stain out, but definitely think about that whenever you get ready to make yours. But this is our vintage Christmas gift for the Holiday Hop 2024, and this is an embroidered handkerchief. I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, please feel free to give me a like, possibly subscribe if you'd like more videos where I show you my goof ups, even when I make them. And check out Colleen, Dawn, and Sylvia at their channels, and their cards are in the video. And give them a watch, a like, and maybe you'll find something else that you want to see. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.